What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my AEW Collision audio review for January 20th, 2024. I am Graham Jason Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. Like I've said in the last couple of weeks, I'm on the fence about reviewing Collision Weekly just because, at least before this week, it didn't really feel overly storyline significant. Not that this show is all that meaningful either, but it ended up being probably one of the best Collisions I've seen since the Continental Classic ended, and just one of the best Collisions, period, in the past couple of months. Again, nothing really overly meaningful happening, aside from one announcement at the end that we'll get into. But I thought the overall action on the show was actually really, really good. We had a great opener. We had another Adam Copeland Invitational, Adam Copeland Open Challenge. That was really, really good. Thunder Rosa in action. A significant development with the trio stuff that I didn't really enjoy, but we'll get to that. Daniel Garcia and Buddy Matthews was great. Roderick Strong and Matt Sydal having a nice match. And the main event was also very entertaining with Blackpool Combat Club's Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli taking on Eddie Kingston and Ortiz. So overall, actually a very good show. So let's get into it here. Opening the episode was Jon Moxley and Shane Taylor. Not often that we see Shane Taylor in action on an AEW show, but I hope this becomes the norm going forward. I know he's kind of largely relegated to Ring of Honor, but we need to make it commonplace. I mean, listen, if you're going to have people in Ring of Honor and be exclusive to Ring of Honor, that's great. But make it, to me, I don't know. I want it black or white. I don't think it necessarily needs to be. But in this case, I think you either make the entire roster kind of exclusive to that show, or if you're going to have people pop up in AEW, like the champions them fucking selves, like the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions and the Ring of Honor World Trios Champions and whatever, you should probably make some of the wrestlers pop over as well. And they do. I mean, Dalton Castle showed up before, among other people, for one-off matches. We don't see Shane Taylor all that much on AEW TV, is what I just said. We saw him unsuccessfully challenge Samoa Joe for the Ring of Honor World Television Championship back at All Out a number of months ago, and they had a very good match. Shane Taylor belongs on the show more. The guy's great. He was never going to win this match, but I thought he went in there, had a really hard-hitting affair, and looked really good in defeat. So I enjoyed this for what it was. It was billed as the return of Jon Moxley to AEW, because we haven't seen him on the show or on any AEW show, I don't think, since World's End 3 weeks ago. He's been in New Japan. He was at Wrestle Kingdom. He was at Battle of the Valley last week, beating, I think, Shingo Takagi, which sounds like a great match. I heard it was a great match. I didn't watch it myself. So he came back here, cut a promo afterward, kind of teasing what's on the horizon for him going forward, and that was really about it. So really good opener here, I thought. I thought these two really killed it in the opening slot. We then went from that match to another really, really good match, Adam Copeland and Dante Martin. And I make it sound like it's out of the ordinary for AEW to do this, but, I mean, it really isn't. It's just that with Collision specifically, and definitely with Rampage, which was also better this week on Friday night, it feels like they have more squash matches and enhancement matches, and enhancement matches can be key. But it felt like a number of months ago we were getting more enhancement shit and less important stuff on these shows. And again, honestly, at the end of the day, Jon Moxley and Shane Taylor is not really an overly important match. We definitely get the more important stuff on Dynamite from week to week. But at least now we're getting matches that match the quality of Dynamite. Like the opener on the show, Adam Copeland and Dante Martin here. He was the one who answered Adam Copeland's Cope Open Challenge, or whatever they want to call it. The Adam Copeland Open Challenge. Which is great, because so if they're not going to further storylines at a significant level, like I feel like they were doing when Collision first started, and a lot of storylines were exclusive to this show compared to Dynamite, then at least we're getting as many must-see matches by AEW standards on this show, which is key. So we got another one here with Adam Copeland and Dante Martin following up on the opener exceptionally well. Dante Martin is now obviously part of the trio with his brother Darius Martin, Action Andretti, so they're not really pushing Dante right now, and they haven't for a while on his own. He had a lot of momentum on his own back in 2021, early 2022, before Darius came back. He got hurt again, and it's always injuries with these guys. Hopefully now they could stay healthy and really build some momentum on their own. But Dante went in there, had an awesome match with Adam Copeland here. He was really made to look great in defeat. This was definitely Adam Copeland's best match yet as part of the Open Challenge stuff. The Griff Garrison thing I thought was fucking a waste of time and really didn't do anything to help Griff Garrison at all. The Lee Moriarty match was much better. I really liked that match, and this was even better than that. I thought these two worked really well together. It was a cool clash of styles, and like Shane Taylor in the opener, he was made to look really good in defeat, was Dante Martin, so I liked that. Adam Copeland also cutting a promo afterward, again teasing and announcing that he has his sights set on the AEW TNT Championship and Christian Cage. So the endgame is clearly Copeland and Cage. I guess you could say 4, because technically they had 2 matches, at the World's End pay-per-view. Copeland beat him, and then Cage immediately avenged the loss by taking the belt right back from Copeland that same night, literally minutes later. And they had their first match on Dynamite a few weeks before that. I didn't like the idea of the feud continuing, or at least doing it in the way that they did it. And I like Adam Copeland being in chase mode, but they had that amazing match at World's End. I'm not really sure how they intend to top that. I really liked the first match. The second match was even better. That was their just a fantastic match between the two. I really don't know how they intend to top it, but I guess we'll find out, because they're clearly still headed in that direction of another match between the two, probably at Revolution, and they're killing time with Copeland effectively until then by having him rack up wins, climb his way up the ladder, and facing and beating some new guys that could absorb the loss. I mean, Dante Martin isn't going to fucking retire tomorrow because he lost to Adam Copeland. Maybe in a positive way, because he just can't get any higher than this, which he obviously can. But I'm just saying it's not like his career is done because he lost to Copeland here. He actually gained more from this match than he has any other match he's probably had in the last couple of weeks, if not months. So, really good stuff here. Thunder Rosa in action up next against Queen Aminata, and a really, really good match here as well. Queen Aminata just got signed officially per Fightful a couple of weeks ago by AEW, and I think this is maybe her fourth consecutive match that she's had on AEW TV. She's also been on Ring of Honor TV as well, but talking about the matches that matter here, she faced Mariah May a number of weeks ago on Dynamite. She then faced Akira Shida on Rampage. She had another really good match last night on Friday night on Rampage against Chris Statlander, and another one here against Thunder Rosa. She lost all of these matches, by the way, so she needs to start racking up some wins on these shows, on the AEW shows anyway, for these matches to really matter. But on the bright side, though, she is really, really good, and she's been given a chance to show that in these matches against quality opponents, but it's not like they're carrying her to really good matches. They're equally putting in the work here and having good matches together, and Queen Aminata is showing that she actually has some skills, that she's quite good, and that she could have a future in this division if they continue to put her in matches, showcase her, and really build around her in this division. Will she be the champion at some point? I don't know. But at some point, I will say the next step with her is not only showing what she can do, but to start building credibility as someone who can win matches, and not just go in there and have these great matches and fucking lose all the time. And she's lost a lot this month. So hopefully in February, the month of February can be kinder to her, in March and April and every month there forward, and giving her more wins and not just going in there to be built up to lose. But I thought this was good. We haven't seen Thunder Rosa in action on Collision in a while. It's been about a month. I mean, it feels like it's been longer, but she came back in December. She teamed with Julia Hart she faced Julia Hart and Sky Blue alongside Abaddon in that tag team match. They won. And then that was kind of it for Thunder Rosa. She was in action on Dynamite last week, and she won that multi-woman tag team match. She didn't win the match for her team, but she was on the winning end of that tag team match. And that was really about it. They really haven't had much for her to do since then. And hopefully they can give her something to do, whether that be the TBS Championship. Maybe she's next in line for a TBS title shot at the Revolution pay-per-view. Very possible. Her and Toni Storm would make the most sense. I mean, Thunder Rosa, and I'm not really sure why they haven't mentioned this more, she never really lost. She never actually lost the AEW Women's World Championship. They made an interim champion, which was actually Toni Storm. And then in her absence, they announced, she's no longer the champion. She won't be back for a long time. Toni Storm is the actual champion. Or Jamie Hayter, is the actual champion. That was after Toni lost the belt, and Toni Storm was retroactively made an AEW official Women's World Champion. But anyway, so Thunder Rosa was never beaten for the belt. You would think that she would want to get back on the path to getting that championship back. She hasn't said anything about that so far from what I can recall. Hopefully that is the direction. Toni Storm would make more sense, but the Julia Hart match was teased when they had that tag team match a month ago. So I'm not really sure what they're thinking, but at least she's on the show. Picking up a win here is a step in the right direction. It was a really good match at that. So after that, we had the Bullet Club Gold and the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn factions, groups, whatever, in the ring, agreeing to join forces. So this has been teased for a few weeks now because they were common enemies of the Undisputed Kingdom. And that's the only reason why they're joining forces. I really hope this is not a long-term thing. I know, you can make the argument, but the alliance with the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, and it was actually the Guns, interestingly. It was the Guns. And I actually completely forgot about that history between the Acclaimed and the Guns from last year and the year before. They joined forces, and that greatly benefited the Acclaimed to give them something to do. They actually stole Billy Gunn from the Guns, and they went on to become World Tag Team Champions, Trios Champions now, blah, blah, blah. So they've really benefited from that alliance, even though it ran its course for me a while ago, but that's just me. Bullet Club Gold should be above this nonsense. If it's just to build to a match with the Undisputed Kingdom, and then to lose, and then Bullet Club Gold turn on the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, then that's the way to go. That's the only way this should go. The crowd in the building ate this shit up. They were very much behind it. They were into it. They popped huge when they joined forces. They're the fucking Bang Bang Gang now. The Bang Bang Scissor Gang, I think is what they're calling it. It's just a whole lot of stupidness. If you like the stupidness, this is for you. I don't. I think this is dumb. I think Jay White specifically is above this nonsense. I don't want to see him out there scissoring fucking Max Caster and all this other nonsense. It's just stupid. So hopefully it is short-lived. They do turn on him. Building to, I would love to see a unification match. We do not need Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team Champions. They've always been, honestly, they've been pointless since the day they were introduced 8 fucking years ago in Ring of Honor. They were maybe useful for about a year there, maybe, and then after that, they were just total props. And they have been, even when Ring of Honor was its own thing years ago, they were pointless even then. We do not need World Six. We don't at this point, we don't even need trios champions in AEW. So they need to kind of dwindle it down to one set of championships or make the Ring of Honor belts exclusive to Ring of Honor, which they have not and they're not going to. They also do not have a lot of trios on that show. So just merge the belts, have Bullet Club Gold win, and move on from there. That's what I would do. But the segment was the segment. I really didn't care about it. I don't care about the alliance, but I'm looking to the end game here. I don't want to get too bothered by it. It's really not that big of a deal, obviously, but I don't want to get too annoyed by it because if the end game is them turning on the Acclaimed and hopefully not 6 months down the road, then I'm okay with it. Hopefully we can get that match at the Revolution pay-per-view. Maybe they have their match against the Undisputed Kingdom at the Revolution pay-per-view. I'm not sure what that match would look like, though, because Adam Cole can't go right now, and Roderick Strong is busy with Orange Cassidy. So only the Kingdom and Wardlow are free, rather. So it would have to be a 6-man tag team match. So there's fucking 6 of these guys, so I don't really know how that makes sense. Anyway, we had Daniel Garcia 1-on-1 with Buddy Matthews in another really, really good match. I said this last week, I believe, but Daniel Garcia will and should benefit a lot more being aligned with FTR than he ever was with, the Jericho Appreciation Society rejects. That group sucked. He should not have been a part of that group. And listen, it got him over with the dumb dancing thing, and he still does the dumb dance, and it's over and whatever. But he's just a much better fit with FTR. They work really, really well together. They have great chemistry, as we saw in that 6-man tag team main event last week. And Garcia picked up a big win here, beating Buddy Matthews. It bothers me, I don't want him back just to lose, but it's better than nothing. It still bothers me to see Malachi Black out there not doing anything. I know they had that great brawl after this match was over. But, if you're going to do singles matches, where the fuck is Malachi Black? I'm glad Garcia won here, but it's why aren't we putting Malachi Black in the ring? The man literally has not had a singles match on AEW television since June of 2022. That is ridiculous. That is completely ridiculous. So, as part of this program, maybe we can get Dax Harwood and Malachi Black and beat him. I don't know. But that's what they should do because the guy's never in the ring unless it's a tag team match. He never fucking wrestles. I don't get it. But this was really good, though. So Dax Harwood, actually, speaking of whom, said afterward in a backstage segment, because they had a really good brawl that the entire roster had to break up and whatever, they announced in a backstage interview with Lexi Nair that they're challenging House of Black to a 6-man tag team match next week, but no ordinary 6-man tag team match. And I believe this is taking place on Collision and not on Dynamite. He challenged them to a elimination-style steel cage 6-man tag team match, which sounds awesome. That sounds like an old territory-style main event from many, many years ago. So that sounds cool. I don't know if I've ever seen a 6-man tag team steel cage elimination-style main event. That sounds like something from fucking 2K. But it sounds cool, so I'm excited for it. That sounds fun, and I think that'll probably main event the show next week on Collision. Roderick Strong, I mentioned him a minute ago. He took on Matt Sydal 1-on-1. Matt Sydal's another one, a lot like Queen Aminata. Queen Aminata was just signed, so that kind of makes sense. Matt Sydal's been there for 4 or 5 years. I don't know why just now they're figuring out he's on the roster, they're using him. I'm not complaining, I like Matt Sydal. But he's had 3 TV matches, I think, in the last week. He faced Swerve Strickland on Rampage about a week or so ago. I think he was at the Daily's Place Rampage, so it was a week ago. He then faced Jericho unsuccessfully on Rampage this past week, and he faced Roderick Strong here. In a losing effort all 3 times, but the guy's good. I'm glad they're using him. They really haven't used Sydal at all for years, and the guy's not going to be a big-time player on these shows. I get it. But still, you can have him in there as an enhancement guy to look good against Strong and Jericho, which we've already seen before, but, they work well together, so whatever. And Swerve and people like that. So I'm not complaining too much. I thought this was a nice match. The outcome was obviously never in question, but it was designed to further Strong's momentum heading into the AEW International Championship match, which was announced for Revolution on Wednesday's Dynamite. And then just like that, we were at the main event, the Blackpool Combat Club's Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli beating the duo of Ortiz and Eddie Kingston. Ortiz, by the way, I mean, I know Santana made a reference to it, I think, weeks ago. It is pretty wild when you think about it. They did that whole feud on Rampage specifically between Ortiz and Santana. And I think it was dumb for them to break up in the first place. I can't even blame the company for that, because if it was Tony Khan's call, which, I mean, he's the boss, so it kind of is, I would just put the two together as a tag team. I don't care if they're not getting along. Get the fuck over it. I mean, it obviously must be bad enough to where they're not teaming anymore, but they're so much more valuable together than they are individually. Santana won that street fight, and we have not seen the guy since. So what does that tell you? And we even said before the feud even happened that it was a fun little feud, but people were saying, as we were all thinking, why not just have them, just team? I mean, that's just a far better use of these guys. On their own, they're not going to mean anything. Ortiz can team with Eddie Kingston on occasion. Santana, we have not seen since like October or November. It's been months, and he won that match. Unless I'm wrong and he's popped up somewhere else and I just don't remember. But unless he's hurt, I don't know. But they need to put the guy back on the show. They're too good to not be used. Put them back together. Get over your fucking problems, mend fences, and move on. It's ridiculous. But this was a really good main event. My only issue with it, the match itself was great. Bryan Danielson choking out Ortiz, picking up the win, while Claudio held back Eddie Kingston. He had to watch from afar. I thought that was a really good finish. What I don't like about this is that we've already seen, and again, I sound like I'm fucking complaining about a great thing here. We've seen a lot of Kingston in the Blackpool Combat Club in the last year and a half. Since Kingston arrived in AEW. We've seen already 3 Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson matches, 2 in the last number of months, and Eddie Kingston and Claudio a number of matches as well in 2023. One at the Ring of Honor Super Card of Honor pay-per-view, one at the Grand Slam show, and Eddie Kingston beat him, and they had the rematch in the Continental Classic that also was won by Eddie Kingston. So there's no real reason for him to continue having matches with either of these two. Or even Jon Moxley. They had their match at World's End. He beat him. He beat Wheeler Yuta last week or the week before that. I think it was last week on Rampage. I'm done with Eddie Kingston in the Blackpool Combat Club. We've done this to death. This is probably building to another Danielson-Kingston match, and that's great if they want to put over... If they're intending to put over Kingston on Danielson, then great. They can have another great match. It's another endorsement of Kingston. But again, Kingston already beat him clean in the Classic itself a number of weeks ago. There's really no reason for them to run it back again. Danielson should move on. Claudio, God forbid, should fucking move on. We've seen him and Eddie now for almost 2 years. Really, since Claudio showed up in the company, they've been teasing it. It's time to move on from that as well. I don't really know why we're going back to this. So again, it should be a great match if we're getting Danielson and Kingston again. That would be fine. But I'm not really sure, is Jon Moxley going to come out to the aid of Kingston? And, it's going to turn into Jon Moxley leaving Blackpool Combat Club? I'm not sure. Bryan Danielson is a babyface and a heel from week to week. It constantly changes. There's no real clarity as to what he's supposed to be, and that's fine, because the guy's great enough where I don't really care about that. But obviously, I don't think they would put the belt on Danielson if Kingston won the whole Continental Classic. At that point, just put the belt on Danielson to begin with. So I don't think that's the outcome here. They're probably just going to reinforce putting over Kingston on Danielson, and that's fine, but it's a match we've already seen twice in the last couple of months where I don't really think we need a rematch, in my opinion. But that's probably where this is going, and they work well together, so I can't complain too much. But I would rather see Eddie in there with some fresh opponents that actually matter. And I'm all for Eddie getting an actual program and not just defending the championship in random title defenses. Orange Cassidy actually has a feud now for that international championship. But even he has been out there defending it against random opponents for the last year, which he should have lost that championship a while ago when he did, and then he got it back. That's a whole other issue. With Eddie, I don't want to see him out there facing the guys like Trent Beretta all the time. I mean, he's not going to lose it against those people. In Wheeler Yuta, same thing. Wheeler Yuta is a bit of a higher profile opponent for Eddie. I want him to have actual feuds and not just out there having random matches, because at that point, what's the point of this championship when we already have the international title and the TNT title kind of doing the same thing? So, good match though, really good main event. I really enjoyed this show. I thought, like I said, it was the best Collision in a while. Not exactly meaningful matches, but I mean, we got a lot of great matches, and we get the more meaningful stuff on Dynamite itself, of course, and they announced a loaded lineup for Dynamite on Wednesday. Tony Khan just came out of came out of here swinging with these matches he was announcing for Dynamite. including but not limited to Swerve Strickland and Jeff Hardy for the first time ever one-on-one. He announced that match. Another match was Edge, or Adam Copeland rather, against Minoru Suzuki. I mean, what a fucking random match that is. But you know what? What a surreal announcement. What a surreal graphic it was to see that. Why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? Adam Page, I think, is taking on... Oh, man, he has a match, too. I forget what it is, but it sounded like a really fun match. I forgot who it was. But, yeah, man, they're really coming out here swinging in 2024. Tony Khan seemed really optimistic about having a great 2024. Whether that includes Okada or not, we will see. It probably will, let's be honest here. I would like to see him maybe go to WWE and try that. AEW is a bit, not that it's too obvious, but I mean, we've already seen him in AEW a lot. He has the exposure there, obviously, and fans will know who he is. But we've already seen him against a lot of their top guys. To me, that's just not as... I think the WWE thing would be a lot more interesting because it would be much more of a risk, sure, but it's also a risk in AEW where he would just feel like another guy potentially. We don't know. They already have Will Ospreay coming in, so I mean, they're going to have to... If they have two guys coming in at the same time, they would have to separate them on different shows. One on Dynamite, one on Collision. Make Okada a Collision guy. Maybe make Will Ospreay the Collision guy. I don't know. But either way, we'll see how that plays out. And the other announcement I forgot that they announced at the end of this episode that I forgot to mention here, probably the most eventful thing on the entire show. Tony Khan didn't come out and say this. They just had the commentators kind of mention this in a throwaway line. The power rankings are coming back. The win-loss records have always been a thing. But we haven't had power rankings since late 2022. They abandoned it actually right around the time that Brawl Out happened. And now they're bringing it back. And now I'm not the biggest fan of the power rankings just because they would typically ignore it and whatever. But it does make wins and losses mean more. And it makes sense for these people to rack up wins. And it was kind of just a formality. But no other company, no other wrestling company to my knowledge on a major scale does power rankings. WWE had the power 25 years ago. That shit meant nothing. But when they do use it properly, it does make sense and they do work. It's when they don't make sense that it becomes just an absolute mess, and that's probably why they moved away from it. Wrestling doesn't always need power rankings because people will just come in and get title shots off the bat if it makes sense from a storyline standpoint and not necessarily because they won 10 matches. I mean, that's just how it works out sometimes. Like with Adam Copeland, him and how many matches did Adam Copeland actually win before he faced Christian for the TNT title for the first time? Not many. And then he lost, and he still got another rematch. So that's what I'm saying. But that sort of stuff, it doesn't really work, but it's worth a shot, and they really want to reboot in 2024 and start from scratch and bring the vibe back. That's one way to do it. So I think it's a cool development. We'll see how it plays out, and I'm excited to see it back in action in 2024. But they're coming out of the gate swinging here with some really good shows. I enjoyed Dynamite on Wednesday. I thought it was a fine show. I thought Rampage was even better, surprisingly, and Collision was also a great show this week. So hopefully they can maintain this momentum going forward. Thank you guys for checking out my AEW Collision audio review for January 20th, 2024. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Don't think there will be a Collision review next week. I'll be in Tampa for Rumble weekend, so I don't even know when I'll get around to watching Collision, probably sometime on Sunday, if not on Monday. No audio review, most likely, but that will be up. The written review will be up at some point, probably in the days that follow, so just keep an eye out for that. And like I said, if the show remains this way, then I'll continue reviewing it. If it doesn't, and it just becomes Rampage 2.0, which it was there for a while, let's be honest, then I probably won't review it. I think it's just a case-by-case basis, a week-by-week basis. If I don't feel like reviewing it one week, then I won't. If I feel like it's an important enough show, then I will. So, I don't know. For this week, it was a great show, so I don't mind doing it. But until next time, guys, have a great one. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.